like this. And yeah, you guys can hear some, kind of basic questions for procurement, planning. I believe logistics is one of them, and then general interview. And yeah, thank you guys for having me. And before I turn it over to Leonard Morrison, who is wonderful. He's our keynote speaker, graduate career coach out of MIT. I do need one student volunteer to hop into the general IV room and be a interviewee. So you just have to have your camera on. I'll send you a prompt and what to respond with, but we're short one person. So if anyone wants to be a volunteer, let me know and we can connect quickly. And yeah, there is a prize in it for you. I promise I'll send you the piece of paper. You just got to read some responses.
I'll take the hit.
All right, Gregory, sweet. Yeah, we will connect quickly just while Len is speaking. I'll let you know what you need to know and we can go from there. But yeah, thanks again, guys, for having me. I think this is going to be a great time, really useful. And I'd love to turn it over now to Leonard Morrison, the MIT graduate career coach in supply chain.
Great. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Ken and Maggie, for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm just going to share my screen to make sure we've got this here.
You should be able to share your screen. I've got it all set.
There we go.
Perfect.
Great. So thrilled that we have so many students here. I can relate. I've worked with students for many, many years, and I have to say, what an opportunity for networking. So bit of advice. I'm going to be sprinkling career advice on you for the next half hour. It's the same advice I give to the MIT students that I work with. I work as part of a 10-month master's program in supply chain. We require 3 years work experience, but our students come from all over New England, all over the US, all over the globe. So I hope at some point, as you progress through your undergraduate degree, you think about a master's in supply chain and connect with me on LinkedIn. So as I begin here, I want to reiterate what Calvin said, which is interviewing is an acquired skill. The more you do it, the better you will become. And today I'm going to share with you some tips to prepare. There's a number of slides I have, but there's 2 slides in particular that are the most important takeaways. I'll tell you what those are. Those are the things I want you to remember. This is a condensed presentation. I normally give it to our students. It takes about 90 minutes to 2 hours with some role playing, but you're going to get the abridged version. I think it's equally powerful. And students have come back to me year after year after year to say, I need copies of this deck. This was the most important thing to help me land interviews. So what I'm going to share with you, I'm convinced works quite well. One other note, all of you, I know a number of you are sophomores and juniors, go into your career office. They have events, especially in October, probably 3 nights a week. Go to every event, sit in the back, eat the free food, just listen to the speakers. You're going to learn a lot about companies, and you're going to be so much more prepared for internships, because internship hiring, I'm sure at many of those schools, Merrimack, Quinnipiac, has already begun. So you're a sophomore, you should be in there. And take the Clifton Strengths Assessment as well. I know that's probably offered by all of the schools. So as we begin, these are the things I'm going to cover. Most importantly, a technique to prepare. I'm going to use Amazon as an example because Amazon has the 16 leadership principles, which all of our students start with. It helps them prepare for every company interview. I'll show you what that is. That'll be your sort of a little bit of the secret sauce. We'll talk about some common questions and then some questions you might think about asking. But first, I sort of begin with sort of, finding your profession. You haven't even begun your career yet. So think about this early career focus. What you're good at in the intersection, what the world needs. That's frankly what the market will pay you. As you progress, we sort of combine what you love to do. This may be hobbies. This may be passions outside of work. Something to consider. Lastly, sort of as we move to the combination of what you love to do and also what the world needs, it culminates in this, and you've probably seen this: purpose, like meaningful. Like this is a lifelong goal. It's not something that's easily achieved. Anyone listening can probably attest to that. But ultimately, we're looking for purpose. It took me, almost 40 years to find purpose. I think I'm there, but I'm always looking at what's next, and it's constantly evolving. So ultimately, some of the questions I want you to ask yourself before you think about interviewing is, who do I help? What's my ideal work day? Work environment, deal breakers, some of the strengths I'm confident using. When I say strengths, I mean Clifton strengths. Every one of you here should go into the career office and say, I want to take the Clifton strengths assessment. Maybe many of you have done it as freshmen. That's your North Star. The resources there are enormous. The resources will help you authentically speak about yourself in the interview, because ultimately companies want to know who you are, and you have a very short period of time to convey that. So Clifton strengths, I want to reiterate, and maybe some non-career goals for you, as well as some expectations around sort of management and colleagues. So just before we begin, like, these are some thoughts that I think you should consider. Behavioral interviewing. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's probably the most common form of interviews. You will get technical interviews. For consulting, you'll get case interviews. Others, you'll get sort of parametric assessment type interviews. But the most common, and I think the most important, is the behavioral interview. It's competency based. So every company that presents a job description, they will highlight the competencies that they're looking for. It's important that you understand what those are. And they're going to begin their interviews with, tell me about a time. Give me an example of when. They believe past performance is the best predictor of future success, and that's how you're going to prepare. This is what's called a behavioral interview. And largely, why is that important? Because we want you to become a very effective storyteller. We want you to demonstrate competence and warmth. Yes, I know the job, I can do the job, and I'm a good person to work with. That should be the goal of the interview. If you boil it down into two terms, I think competence and warmth can be a very effective way to convey why you're the best candidate for a role. Ultimately, employers hire people they like people they know, and you have 15 minutes for them to get to know you, or less than that, maybe only 30 minutes for them to get to know you. So storytelling becomes a very important component. And how to become a good storyteller? We know good storytellers. We know they're very present. They're focused on the person they're speaking with. They don't necessarily have to be magnetic, but they're calm. They remember your name after you introduce yourself. They're smiling. They're relaxed. They're prepared. They're focused on you. And that's the goal that we want to move towards. We want you to become an effective storyteller so you can convey why you're the best candidate for the role. And I should say here, and maybe Calvin or Maggie can help. If you have questions related to, for example, like what's the one interview question you're most afraid to get? Put it in the chat, and if we have time, I'll get to it. But like, use the chat to sort of share your biggest fears about interviewing. I've heard them all, and I'm happy to answer them. So as we go forward here, so remember I said there's 2 slides. This is one of them. It really comes down to, how well do you know the job? Like, you read the job description. Do you understand every term in the job description? Some do, some don't. What we're trying to do is to have you identify what you believe are the core success factors of this job. Think about it this way. If you had to ask someone who was in the role, what does it take to get a $10,000 bonus at the end of the first quarter? That person would tell you what they believe are the core success factors. That's what you want to find out from each role. Now, in a perfect world, you're going to have lunch with 3 people at that company who are doing that job. in a perfect world, they're going to tell you what they think are the core competencies. But that's pretty rare that that's going to happen. Although they are coming to your school to do information sessions. So, attend those. More likely, all you're left with is the job description. So it's important to be able to tear apart that job description to identify what are the behaviors that they are looking for. What are the technical skills? What are the people skills? And there's always a trick question, which I would ask students in an interview, which is, how does the company make money? Like, do you know how the company makes money? Like, literally, can you walk through sort of the Porter's five forces? Who are the competitors? What are the barriers to entry? What are the threats to the organization? Do you know the company that well that you could answer that question? How do they make money? If you do, you're probably going to do extremely well in the interview. But it's a fairly simple question. Takes a little bit of research, but something I would certainly recommend. So, as I said, the most important slide of the two is, do you know the job? Many students feel that because the company is coming to the college to interview, they assume they want to hire me. Well, not really. They're going to 5 other schools at least to recruit. So you're competing against candidates that they're not even in your program. So it's extremely important for you to understand what that job is all about and be very specific. So one of the suggestions I always recommend is if you have a chance to talk to someone who's a planner or in sourcing or in consulting or regardless of the role, keep asking them, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? What do you mean? You basically want to peel away the onion to understand a particular role. So here's an example of a job that it's out there right now. It's a full-time job for anyone who's a senior. Maybe it's available. It's with Berkshire Grey. They make robots for warehouses. When I reduced the job description for the planner down, it's pretty basic. Manage POs. Be able to implement and propose some improvements. Collaborate with engineering. Track change orders. Communicate in person as well as through dashboards, and have some pretty core technical skills as well, but not a huge barrier for anyone seeking to get into the field. I think the work experience here was 0 to 2 years, so every senior here could be open to this role. But what are they looking for in particular? As I looked at this, they want to have someone who ideally knows Microsoft Office pretty well, especially Excel. Well, be prepared to talk about that. Do you know macros? Do you know VBA? Speak to your advanced Excel functionality. Attention to detail. Everyone on the call probably is very attentive to detail. Strong communication skills. That may be communication, the ability to defend recommendations, the ability to give presentations, the ability to be polite and professional and crisp, clear. And the ability to collaborate with engineers. So what I've done is I'm sort of tearing apart this job description so that when it comes to the core competencies, we say, well, to get this job, you need to collaborate. Yes, we get that. Why am I collaborating? In other words, we're asking that question, why? Keep asking, why is that important? Well, because we're collaborating across functions. Well, what are those functions? Well, they're engineers and suppliers. Well, what's another core competency? Communication skills. Why? You got to simplify complexity. You have to negotiate. And you're peeling away the onion by asking the question, why? Why is that core behavior so important to this job? Maybe you have to defend recommendations. Attention to detail. Why is attention to detail important? Got to produce accurate purchase orders. You got to identify critical paths and risks. So all of this is a simple way to fully understand the job. And this is where networking among your alumni can be super helpful. We recommend it. Your career office will give out names of alums who have gone with an employer that you're interviewing with, and you can contact them on LinkedIn. Get 20 minutes of their time, because everyone will give you 20, but maybe not 30. That's a very sort of a simple way to get their attention, and ask them about what they feel are the core requirements of the job. And I'm zeroing in on this slide because again, it's the first of the two most important slides. How well do you know the job will decide whether you get the job offer or not. As we move forward, Amazon makes it easy for you because they list the 16 leadership principles. Now, some of you may have seen these. The most important, not so much the last two, but the 1 through 14 are essential. And obviously, what's the first one? Customer obsession. So, we tell our students, come up with 2 stories for 6 or 8 of these core competencies. So give me an example when you demonstrated superior customer service. Give me an example when you had as they say, a bias for action. You didn't wait, you didn't procrastinate, you took the initiative. Give an example of when you dove deep, when you got into the weeds, when you really did a lot of analysis work. By using these principles here to help craft your stories, you're going to make yourself into a very compelling candidate. So the first part of this preparation is, how well do you know the job? Amazon makes it somewhat easy. They've given you these right up front. Most companies will not give you these core competencies right up front. You'll have to get them from the job description. You'll have to speak to people who have done the job currently, or people who work at a competitor in the same job, but it's easily accessible to get this information. The second most important slide is crafting your stories to match those competencies. So you've identified the competencies, you've prioritized the competencies as best as you can. Now you're going to make a story for each. And the story should come from your previous internships and summer jobs, largely. Many will come from your academic assignments, your class projects. Some will be personal stories, but you want to link the stories to the competencies. So what I tell the students that I work with is, get a 5x7 index card. On the index card at the top, write the competency. Below, write out the story. Craft the story. Maybe you type it up and it's a half a page, but get it on paper. Now, when you get it on paper, you're going to tell it in a certain way. And you're going to begin with a headline. So in a number of minutes, you're going to read a job description, and someone may ask you a question. Tell me about a time when you worked effectively with others. And before you jump into the answer, you're going to give a headline. The story I'm going to tell you was when I worked with a team of, planners when I had a summer job at X company. It's a single line headline, but it sets the tone on where your answer's going. So don't just jump into an answer. Give me a headline on where the story's going. Very important. I improved a process that reduced shipping costs. Then we're going to structure our story, and I recommend writing it out using the STAR format. All of you, well, I shouldn't say all of you, maybe some of you, I hope, are familiar with the STAR format: situation, task, action, and result. Here's the situation. This is what I was expected to do. This is what I did, and this was the result. So I'm going to make this a little bit more simple for you, and this is what I learned. When we think about situation, the situation, I think, is the most important. Now, many companies will say the impact or the result, but oftentimes students overlook the importance of laying the foundation and bringing the interviewer into your world. So when I was working retail at Macy's department store as an inventory support person, I was working with, these were my hours, like you're bringing them into your world. So don't skip over the situation and the environment within which we worked. And then you can quickly jump into the task, the action, and the result. It orients the listener. Like, that's the most important part of the situation. And here's a way to sort of help you frame out your story on paper. You're talking about the situation. Who were the stakeholders? What was expected of me? Who were the team members I worked with? Did I have a budget? Did I have resources? Did I have key relationships? Like, this helps you craft that part of your story. Second, what was I expected to do? What were the decisions I was responsible for? Were there any obstacles? Actions. Were there any sort of, what was my plan of attack? How did I approach this? Who was I working with? What did I actually do? And then result, what was the impact? Maybe it was financial, maybe it was I did something quicker, I saved time, I saved costs, I improved quality. Like, did I get recognition for it? All of these become an important way to frame the impact of your story. So what we've done, just to summarize here, is we made sure that we fully understood the job by identifying 5 to 6 core competencies of the role. We prioritize the competencies. We craft a story for each competency using the STAR method. We write it out on paper. Once it's on paper and we've rehearsed it, we then start to think about, well, what's missing? Because an important element in each story is, does it address where I've worked with others? This is where I've mentioned sort of have built relationships, because I think everyone wants to know, can this person work with others? So try to say in your story that, double check it. Did I indicate who I worked with? Did I indicate who I was communicating with on a daily basis? Desire. Well, how do I show desire in my story? Honestly, best way to show desire is to smile during the interview. Like, be attentive. Maybe you indicate in the interview that you spoke with 3 of your alums who work at the company. Just that simple fact shows you really want to work there. So maybe you can incorporate desire into your story. Obviously, ability is easily covered in the story. That's the whole purpose of doing it. Temperament. Do you have the personality for the role? Can you handle stress? Can you multitask? Can you push back? Are you okay with conflict? Like, every job requires a certain temperament. Do you understand the temperament that is affiliated with that role? Lastly, are there certain assets that you have that you possess? So what's an asset? Well, some of you speak a second or a third language. That's a huge asset. Can you incorporate that asset into your story? Some of you have certifications. I know a number of your programs offer Excel certifications. Like, incorporate that into your story. That's an asset. So what we've done is we've sort of ratcheted up the story a little bit more to make sure that it touches on these elements. As I jump ahead, so I'm moving off topic. The most important part was, do I know the role? Secondly, can I craft stories to perfectly match the competencies? So when you go into an interview, you don't have to guess what questions you're going to get. You're only going to get questions that are tied to the competencies. So if you know the competencies, it's game over. Almost every question you get will be tied to those competencies, and you will have a story for it. It is the secret to nailing an interview, except for this question. So this is a question that everyone thinks they can handle. And honestly, it takes preparation. Tell me about yourself. And they ask it. Some people ask it because they're lazy. Some people ask it because they're genuinely curious about how you're going to respond, how you're going to structure your thoughts. But there is a technique, a simple way to do it. And the technique is as follows. Break it down into 3 elements: experience, expertise, and interests. So this is what I've done, what I'm good at, what I love to do. And you can say those in any order. Doesn't really matter. But if you've memorized, rehearsed all 3, it'll flow very effectively. And your answer will be very succinct, honest, and engaging. So this is this is a very common question. I would want all of you to prepare for and craft. And it's as simple as saying experience, expertise, and passion. Break it out that way. I have experience, my strengths are, I'm at my best when, like, and these are some of the terms you can use. So these are great phrases to incorporate into your, call it an elevator pitch. You know, like when you have third-party validation that, you know, I'm known for, I was recognized for, I think that's very compelling. Don't be opposed to, you know, identifying what the 10 most likely interview questions are. Like, certainly, you know, you can do that and break them into the, you know, a similar format, challenge, action, result, or STAR format. One suggestion I often have is if you're going into depth in a story, people remember things in threes, not fours, not fives. There's 3 reasons why. Always use 2 or 3. Use fingers. Drives home a point. Interviewers, it's not necessary for you to give them a long answer. 2 minutes is fine because they'll have follow-up questions. But I think the important thing is that your responses are on point and crisp. And I think when you say there are 3 reasons why, I think that's a very effective way to approach a more of a detailed response. So some of the things you're going to do next, like you probably already updated your resume. Even if you're a sophomore, like resume should be done. I worked at Bentley for 10 years. All your competitor schools, Bentley, Babson, and Northeastern. So I've been in your world. Those students, they're introducing resume, career, LinkedIn exercises as early as freshman year. Informational interviews can be super helpful to understand roles, clarify your expertise, work on your stories. Like, absolutely recommend that and practice with your classmates. You know, here's a response. You know, tell me about yourself. Well, who I am. This is my name. Past 2 summers I've worked here and here. Managing or improving what? I'm comfortable working with large data sets. I'm an industrial engineer. I'm a supply chain student. I love to solve problems. I've been told I'm a team leader. I enjoy working across functions. Something as simple as that. Like, it gets the point across. Be prepared for this question. You'll never get it, but if you are prepared for it, you're a superstar. Can you talk about a role for 15 minutes? I'll bet all of you could talk about your summer job last summer for 15 minutes. You could speak to all the challenges, the highlights, the frustrations, because you knew that job so well. Hopefully, you'll be able to talk for 5 minutes about the job that you're applying for because you'll have done this research on the role. Some general questions. These, you know, you're not going to get these, but, and I don't want to sort of create any anxiety, but Apple a year ago said, I'm turning the interview over to you. Ask me anything about the role you'd like. So have some good questions about the role. I think that's a great example. Obviously, you will always get, I think, a collaboration question. Tell me about a skill you've learned and you've used. What are you most proud of? Be able to answer that question. That should be your first bullet point on your resume. What are your strengths? What are your areas for improvement? Things to think about. I don't think you're ever going to get this question. I'm in the, I don't know, 1,000 students I've worked with. I don't think anyone gets it, but everyone fears it. This is where the Clifton Strengths comes in. Your Clifton Strengths has a basement and a balcony. When your strength provokes an emotional response in someone else, that may be a do-over. That may be an opportunity to address what you might consider a weakness. A strength taken to an extreme, maybe a critical performance review, but whatever you choose, the 4 C's, your weaknesses should be believable, you should be coachable, confessible, but not critical. So just one way to approach this kind of a question in an interview. And again, you're not going to get this question, but you should feel comfortable speaking about areas that you'd like to improve in. Like maybe you want to strengthen your quantitative skills, or maybe you want to strengthen your platform skills. Like you're sophomores and juniors in college, like you're absolutely okay to say that. Like that shows someone who's very self-aware, someone who's really speaking very authentically and has reflected on who they are. So I would not hesitate to give a very honest answer to that. Why should we hire you? You know, that question, you should be able to answer that. Why? Because I know the job. I know the 4 or 5 competencies are A, B, and C, and D. I can do this role. This is how I see myself in the role. You know, this is a way to answer that question. But it all comes back to the core competencies that you identified, to show them that you know the role and you can do the role ultimately. What if I'm stumped? Well, obviously you're not going to fake it. You want to confirm that maybe they're understanding, let them rephrase it. They obviously show motivation, maybe redirect it. But I think the most important thing here is the first one. Just be honest. If you don't know the question, that's okay. Ask them to rephrase it. You may buy enough time to be able to answer the question. But it's pretty rare that if you've done this amount of preparation, you're going to be stumped. Honestly, questions you should be asking. I think these are pretty helpful questions. What's the most rewarding aspect of the role? What are the most important aspects? Key people you'd work with. You know, what does this person appreciate most about the company? How do they identify top performers? And then lastly, I'll speak to some of the common mistakes that students have. The biggest mistake I see with students, and I'm talking about graduate students at MIT, they don't have compelling stories. Maybe they don't know their resume as fully as they should. Maybe their stories are rambling because they haven't rehearsed them. They didn't write it down and they didn't refine it. Lack of sincerity, and very often they overuse we versus I. I had a conversation today with someone. I don't want to hear the word we because I'm not hiring a group. I'm hiring you. What was your role on this project? What did you do? So you could say my team, I, my team, me, but not we. I'm sensitive to time. Some resources here to consider. But I'm going to stop there, Maggie. I'm actually 5 minutes beyond. And I know we've got interviews coming up. Are there any questions in the chat that anyone would like me to comment on? I'm happy to answer.
I think there was one that Daniel asked. You know, when I'll try and phrase this the right way, but when a company has a specific technology for an entry-level job, that you're not an expert with, but they're asking for experience there, how do you attack a question like that?
Great question. In fact, that came up with a student earlier today. The system that they were working on was an Oracle product, but they knew SAP. And so the question was, well, if you got up to speed on, if I say, I don't know Oracle, I realize that's an important requirement of the role, but in my past role or in my internship, I did get up to speed on Salesforce. I did get up to speed on SAP. So I'm pretty confident I can get up to speed on Oracle. So you're conveying your ability to learn that, proprietary tool based upon how you've learned others. Were there any other questions? Come on, hands raised. Here's your chance. Yes, Laura.
In my experience, we
Oh,
get a lot of questions after the breakout rooms too. But go ahead, Laura.
okay.
I have a question because I finished college like 20 years ago, and for my first 10 years, I was in big corporations in supply chain, and then after that, like it was more startups, and now I want to go back into working for big corporations. So how do you explain that kind of gap from going from 200,000 people company to a family-owned company and trying to go back.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you want to be honest and share with them. Well, this was a unique opportunity to be more hands-on, to apply some entrepreneurial spirit, to be part of something that was growing rather, very fast. Like this was very exciting opportunity, and no one's going to criticize you for jumping on an exciting opportunity where you're testing new skills and you're being pulled in many different directions. I think that speaks to one, you're a risk taker. Like companies like risk takers, like they want someone who will jump into action. And I think you would package it that way because but now I'd like to apply that same sort of entrepreneurial spirit into an organization that may need that sort of refreshing energy. So I think there's different ways to sort of spin that story, but I wouldn't shy away from it. I would say, oh, I am so proud of what I did, and this is what I bring to you. I think they would appreciate it.
You say it so beautifully. I'm going to listen to the recording to trust my. Thank you so much.
Other questions? The question you fear most. So I did hear someone asked me, actually a colleague of mine, she coaches students at Harvard Business School, and she asked me this question, and I turned it around on her and I said, what question have you heard students fear the most? And the question was, why would you not want this job? Now, to answer the question, you have to know the job, and you have to be very delicate in how you respond. And it may be that I'm not sure I would like this job because I don't have a sense of the team, the management. So what I would need is I would like to spend a half a day meeting the entire team. I think, that could be a very plausible response. Again, it's not a question you're going to get, but it was a question that someone said I would be very fearful if I was asked this. So, but you must have some questions.
Recording in progress.
Is it okay if I do a second question? It's
Of
not
course,
a question.
of course.
For example, at some point in my career, I had like a toxic work environment. There is an
There was an echo there.
how is a good how do you address like a toxic environment question? Your microphone is off.
Right. So I think that's a common question when people are leaving an organization because of a difficult environment. Maybe the phrase that you use is, it did not bring out the best in me. The culture at the organization did not bring out the best in me. I'm someone who values X. I'm someone who responds very favorably to Y. So I think if you focus on what you needed from the organization versus the negative that they were giving you, it's a way to deflect and explain why you left. Like I'm drawn to an organization that appreciates, that values, that rewards A, B, C. And that was not something that I experienced. That's one way. I'm sure there's many ways to address it here. Maybe there's others who would like to comment as well, but that would be one approach I might consider.
Thank you.
I have a question. You are in a mute.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, what's the first step to have like internship or be in a supply chain. I have like manufacturing, engineering, college degree, but I don't want to accept any job. I want like job in supply chain. So so now I have to do like internship because I'm about to graduate. I didn't find anywhere to go. So should I accept like if I found like should I accept from like Digimax, Macy's, because I have a background in manufacturing. Like, yeah, I don't want, yeah.
Yeah, so I will say that an engineering degree is highly coveted. We have found, so we draw international students into our program, and we draw many domestic students, and maybe 10% of our US students have engineering degrees. Most of them have bachelors in supply chain. But 80% of our international students have engineering degrees because it's so valued. And the employers place a premium on the students with the engineering degree. So I would not compromise. I would target those organizations that are engineering driven, product driven. And there's many here in the field who can speak to this far better than I can. And I know they're here. They should comment as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Calvin, you must see the demand for engineering talent.
Yeah, so yeah, in supply chain there's a high demand. So I mean, on most of the people I talk to or the hiring managers, they one of the first requirements will be like, they may be a supply chain manager, but we would love to see someone with an electrical engineering, mechanical engineering degree. They may be a procurement manager. We'd love to see someone with an engineering degree. Like it can be one of their top 5 things. And we also have a an engineering team here who focuses specifically on those engineering roles, and they are never really in drought of people they're trying to support just with that engineering background. So yeah, I do think it's a very useful degree and can contribute to your supply chain career long term.
Okay.
And lastly, I'd just say with the engineering degree, succinctly say, I am very process oriented, highly analytical. I understand root cause. I work effectively with other engineers. Like all of that training should come through that first response.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I see Laura has raised her hand.
Hi, sorry, I'm taking as much opportunity as I can. I have a situation that I'm an industrial engineer. I have a master in logistics and supply chain. Many times when I go to apply for a job, even though I want to put my feet into the company, pretty much they say that I'm overqualified for the job. But at the same time, if I'm not in the game, I cannot accumulate experience to get to the level that my education has. So do you have any suggestion for that kind of scenario?
Yeah, I mean that's a very unfortunate situation where you're being penalized for your expansive education and experience. A suggestion might be there are organizations that are truly under the radar from much of the talent out there. We know certainly graduate students and people early in their career are very drawn to brand name organizations, but the majority of companies are not the brand name organizations. Those are the companies that would be very receptive for you because you can be an immediate solution to their problems. And if you can just get the face-to-face first round interview to say, I can fix what you need done. I can handle this. I've done this before. I think you're going to have fewer obstacles in those kinds of organizations that are seeing less candidates. So that might be one suggestion I'd consider. I don't know, Calvin, any others care to comment?
Yeah, so I had a situation pretty similar recently. I had someone who was the director of procurement somewhere, and I was doing I was running a search for a manager, and they immediately pointed right away, her background, it would suggest something at a higher level, and the question I get a lot is why would they want to take a step into such a lower level junior role, right? And I think that's the time to be your own champion, your own proponent, and really just voice your feelings. Like, listen, I understand this is kind of where my background puts me, but my goal out of all of this is to get introduced to an organization and build myself from the ground up because that's how you truly succeed. That's how you learn the processes. And I understand, I think by inserting myself into maybe, a junior level role that seems junior with my background, I can utilize my prior skill set and this master's that I hold and truly grow and contribute with the team. That's just what I kind of
Well
used
said.
in my career. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, Maggie, do you want to hop into these interview rooms? And then we can hit those the Q&A afterwards as well, after we run through these mock interviews.
Yep. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. So if your name is in the chat, I am going to put you into a breakout room.
We
So-
do
so-
just interjecting quickly, Maggie, I apologize. We need I do believe we need one more student volunteer. Unless Olivia can help, but we did have someone in my breakout room not make it. So if we could get another student volunteer to come into my room, that'd be wonderful. Greg
And
already stepped up. Anyone else?
$25 gift card in it for you. Laura, why don't you come in?
Yeah, Laura, perfect. I can
Okay.
I will personally message you with this job description and just give you a little background on what we're doing.
Okay. So if your name is in the chat, do not go to a breakout room. I'll put you there. For everyone else, the rooms are open and they are named and you get to choose which room that you would like to go into. And so how you will do that, I'm looking on my phone to confirm that you're able to see it, is you go down to the bottom and you should see breakout rooms. So two. It's going to take me just a minute, so feel free to keep chatting while I'm putting people in.
Okay, so just a quick question, Leonard. When people are preparing to go out to the work environment, should they clean up their LinkedIn page before and make it more pertinent to the jobs?
Yes, the LinkedIn page should be very current. Now, the LinkedIn page, as opposed to the resume, is more of a personal reflection of what you bring. So you do have the opportunity to bring some personality into that, into how you frame your your story. So, but I would have it up to speed, and there are some great resources out there to improve your LinkedIn profile. One that we use is from the LinkedIn guys. That's actually the name of it. Jeremy Schiffling. He used to work for LinkedIn. He's got amazing resources. So I would absolutely use him. He has a master class on LinkedIn. I think it's free. So that would be a great tool. Join breakout.
We'll see you in a bit.
Wait, Maggie, did you want me to join the room since I got the invite, or did you want me to wait?
You ready to go?
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Where were we seeing the invite? Or it
Should be
pops up.
coming right up on your screen. If not, I can put you right in.
Okay, I'm not a student, so I just want to hear what's going on.
Well, do you want to stay out here or do you want to go into
Oh.
a room?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm just looking for Laura to make sure I've got her in the right room.
Hey, you know what? If you, whatever the smallest room is, throw me in.
Okay.
This is the fun part, hearing their questions and seeing where you
Yeah.
can help them.
I would agree.
Thank you.
So Larry, you're going to stay out here or you're going to go into one of the rooms? And Todd, you need to,
I right now at this point in time, I'm gonna have to leave. I got a pressing.
Okay.
something I have.
well, have a great
What a
time.
great meeting. I posted my information in the
Okay.
per request for Ken. But I hope everybody gets a good deal. Okay,
Well, have a great day, Larry.
you too now.